Hey man, it's me, Kevin Smith. Are you listening to the right podcast? Because you're supposed to be listening to Three Guys in a Flick. Are you listening to that right now? Then you're in the right place. Enjoy.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
Food for 5 years, 1,000 gallons of gas, air filtration, water filtration, Geiger counter, bomb shelter, underground goddamn monsters. Welcome back. You are listening to Three Guys in a Flick. This is where we review the good, the bad, and the absurd. Tonight's episode, Tremors. Beware spoilers. Coming to you from on top of a big-ass rock in Perfection, Nevada, my name is Don. And to my right, we have our comic book guy, John.
How you doing tonight?
Well, I'm quite well. Thank you for asking. And to my left, we have the professor, Ken.
Hello, everybody.
How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing good.
Excellent.
Doing great.
Excellent. Tonight we are talking about Tremors. Tremors comes to us via the Bronco helmet and was submitted by Mackenzie, one of our listeners. So this one is for you. We hope that you enjoy it.
Hey, Mackenzie. Happiness.
Released on January 19th, 1990, Tremors was directed by Ron Underwood. The screenplay by Brent Maddock and S.S. Wilson. And it stars Kevin Bacon, Fred Ward, Finn Carter, Michael Gross, Reba McEntire, and a bunch of other graboids.
How'd this movie do, Don?
This movie was made for $10 million, and it brought in, is that right?
Yep.
$17 million.
Yeah, and the director felt that one of the reasons why this movie didn't do so well is there was really no marketing at the time for the movie.
Well, they didn't know how to market it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They didn't know if this was going to be a horror film or a comedy. You know, it's not until it gets released on VHS that it becomes what it ultimately becomes.
That's where it takes off.
Yeah, yeah. Did you guys see this in the theater?
Sort of. I saw it when it came around again at the Crest. Occasionally, folks, you might hear us refer to the Crest. And the Crest is a movie theater for the longest time that would capture a movie that had already left the theaters, and 6 months later, it would show up. And so if you happened to miss it when it was in the theaters, you had a last chance to watch it at the Crest.
And I love the Crest because I can't tell you how many times my buddies and I sat through Die Hard, Batman, Lethal Weapon 2, and the list goes on because we knew the manager and he just let us in. So God bless the Crest.
I loved the package deal that they had. They called it the Trough, which was, I think, 2 beverages and a bowl of bottomless popcorn.
Yeah. So this is directed by Ron Underwood. Do you guys know anything else that this guy has done?
City Slickers.
Yeah.
That's the only other one of note. The writers and him, they also worked on something else. It was
Heart and Soul.
Heart and Soul with Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, young Robert Downey.
Mm-hmm. And the writers, they worked together as well. They also did Batteries Not Included. And what was the other one?
I feel like it was another kid-friendly...
Short Circuit.
Yeah, there you go.
This movie does kind of have a City Slickers kind of feel.
Oh, and this...
At least a Western kind of motif.
And this trio also did Tremors 2 and 3.
Yes, well, I mean, like a lot of franchises, I think that Tremors is a great standalone film.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Have you seen any of the sequels?
I saw the second one.
Once.
And come on. It just didn't live up.
I've seen, I think, the next 3 movies. The one, or I watched up to the one where they go back in time, I think, and they show them in the Western.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was the next logical step, right?
I was just looking up. Apparently, there's one that came out in 2020.
Yeah, with Jamie Kennedy is... No, I'm sorry. It's John Hader, Napoleon Dynamite, and Bert.
Yeah,
Bert
and
Gummer.
It's Land of the Screechers, I think it's called. Isle of the Screechers.
Yeah, something like that. Did you see it in the theater?
Well, thank you for asking. I did see it in the theater, and I remember before this, I had seen Kevin Bacon in a few things here and there, but I always thought of him as kind of a dick actor. Like I always thought of him from Animal House.
That was his first role.
Yeah, And I didn't even realize that he was in Friday the 13th, anything like that. But when I saw him in this,
Oh, you're right. It is Friday the 13th. That's the first one.
yeah, my opinion, though, really changed on him, I think, in this movie. I really liked his character, Val, in this movie.
Yeah, I didn't see this until it came out on VHS. And I remember the first time I saw it thinking, wow, this was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. You know, it's just a fun ride.
It's a don't take it too seriously movie.
Yeah. Speaking of this movie, what'd you guys think of the cast? Let's start with Kevin Bacon himself.
I thought that Kevin Bacon and Fred Ward, their characters are so good together. Their banter and their camaraderie and their back and forth, a little bit of mild bickering. I love Fred Ward's, wry little smile that he has on his face throughout the movie. He's a really likable character. Both of these characters are really good.
You can tell these two are having a good time, and they're such good partners. And I really enjoyed the chemistry between those two as well.
What's crazy about this is, I guess at the time, Kevin Bacon was, basically getting into a brand new marriage and had a lot of things going on. And after this movie was made, he claimed it was the worst thing he ever did and did not want to talk about it. It wasn't until years later that he admitted that he had a lot going on in his life personally, and that this actually was one of the funnest movies he's ever made, and really appreciated. It's sad that he didn't appear in any of the sequels. I wonder if that would have helped the sequels.
I don't know. Who knows? He does Footloose, and then the string of films he does in between Footloose and this one are bombs. He doesn't do very well. Like She's Having a Baby, Quicksilver, Whitewater Summer, shit like that, right? And so he is worried. He doesn't want to take this because it's a big worm movie, and he's like, what the fuck? And he does it, and they have a good time making it, and it fucking bombs. And he is just so down on it. And I guess rightfully so. And you're absolutely right, John. It's not until later when it becomes appreciated in this cult classic that he, is really thankful for being in it. And he, in fact, was in the pilot episode of the Tremors series that never got released from Netflix.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Do you have any other Kevin Bacon movies you dig?
Oh, fuck. Countless. Right? Footloose.
Well,
always a favorite.
Yeah, I always have to go to Footloose.
Yeah.
It's a musical. It's not a musical.
Well, they don't sing in it.
Yeah.
No, they don't.
But there was a Broadway stage version where they do sing in it.
And you have seen it?
I have seen it.
Of course he has. I mean, yeah, come on. Anything he's in, really.
Invisible Man.
I never saw that.
Okay, let's not get crazy. But yeah.
Yeah, he played a pretty good bad guy in that one.
Yeah, well, he does have that fucking persona.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But he will forever be, Red McCormick.
So I also think about him in A Few Good Men, Mystic River. Apollo 13.
Apollo 13.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember for the longest time, it was probably around the time that Tremors came out, that I would tell people, I would give them a trivia question. Do you remember that moment in Friday the 13th when the hand comes up from underneath the bed and the arrow comes up through the throat? Yeah? Do you know who that is? It's Kevin Bacon. No way!
Yeah. What'd you guys think of Fred Ward? Do you know him from a lot of things?
I don't know him from very many other things. The only other place where I remember him is from The Right Stuff.
Yeah, and then there's also Remo Williams.
I was going to say, he was in Remo Williams, and yeah. I, for one, loved that movie, and I always wish they had continued the storyline for that one.
Sure.
That was the original plan. Originally, it was supposed to be a series, and we were supposed to get a whole bunch of Remo Williams movies, but for whatever reason, they decided to walk away from that project.
Yeah, it probably didn't perform.
Yeah. Michael Gross, fresh off of Family Ties. I guess he finished the last day of filming Family Ties, the last episode, and went straight to here the next day.
And the director said that that Michael Gross comes in for an audition, and he was like, "This is the dad from Family Ties. There's no way, right? It just didn't seem like it would fit." And at the end of the audition, he had nailed it because the director said that Gross made him feel like that there was stuff underneath the ground coming up, and he just leaned into it and got into it, and he's one of my favorite characters in this.
Originally, they were thinking of either like a Chuck Norris in this role or a Chuck Norris-like character. I thought he did a bang-up job in this.
Well, yeah, he's in all of them.
Yeah, basically.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that he is better suited than having like a Chuck Norris character in there. Chuck Norris, he always plays a character that is calm, cool, whereas we have Bert. He's a little unhinged. He gets wild-eyed, and because of that, I thought that he was spectacular for this role.
Yeah. And then they pair him up with Reba McEntire,
Who
and
they did not want originally in this movie.
That's her first acting role.
and she gets to do the song at the end. And I'm not a huge country fan, and I've gone on record saying that, but I like me some Reba.
Yeah.
And I thought she was perfect for this role.
When she first wanted to audition, the director said, no, I don't want her. There's no way she could do this. But then he got talked into letting her come in for an audition, and apparently she blew them away.
Yeah, well, I mean, she's in the movie, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Does the name Ariana Richards mean anything to you?
No.
That's the little girl. What else was she in?
The girl on the pogo stick?
Yeah. Anybody?
No.
Anybody? Bueller? The 1993 Steven Spielberg directed Jurassic Park. Listeners, I wish I could show you the look I just got from the comic book guy. Yes, that is true. As soon as she was on screen, I went, oh, yeah, Jurassic Park.
Do you know where they came up with the concept for this movie?
Yeah, one of the writers was working for the Navy and was working on top of a rock one day and imagined if there were worm-like creatures underneath and he couldn't get down.
Yeah,
And
he was
thought,
trying to
that
make.
was a great idea.
They were trying to make educational safety films. And then, do you know what they originally were planning on naming this movie?
Land Sharks
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious.
or Land Shark.
Yeah, and why didn't they use the name?
Well, because SNL still had the patent on it.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to fight it. And strangely enough, I watched a couple of the behind the scenes, and there's a great behind the scenes, a couple of them on YouTube. One that came out as soon as the movie was made, kind of probably came out with the VHS release, I'm guessing. And then one that was made not too long ago. It's a retrospective, and Kevin Bacon's on it, and it's called Tremors Making Perfection or whatever. If anyone is a fan of this film, I recommend you check that out. But anyways, as I'm watching the movie and these documentaries, I myself can't help but see all the parallels to Jaws. But yet, Jaws is never in the conversation. You know what I mean? When they're talking about it and where they got the ideas from and this, that, and the other. And I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if it's subconscious or it's just because it's just the way it was made. I don't know. But
Well,
you guys had to have seen the parallels, right?
I don't know if I saw the parallel the first time I saw it, but when I went back and watched it this time, the fact that they don't show the graboid or the creature for the first, 20 minutes of the movie?
34 minutes.
34 minutes of the movie. Thank you, Professor. Really gave me Jaws vibes.
Absolutely. And look at the fucking poster.
And it worked for it.
Right. And I'm not saying that's wrong or bad. All I'm saying is I found a lot of parallels to Jaws, but that's just me.
No, I thought the same thing. I was right there with you.
Yeah.
I didn't think that ever until you guys said it.
Interesting. Is it trivia time?
Why, yes, Don. I believe it would be trivia time. In our continuing pursuit to crown a master of movie trivia, I've prepared a series of questions related to the movie we are reviewing this episode. Please wait until I finish each question before answering. What did the man who Val and Earl find dead at the top of the power lines die of?
Dehydration.
I think Professor started that one first. When the doctor and his wife are building their new house, what is it that the wife tells the doctor they have to pick up in the morning?
Cinder blocks.
There you go.
Bam.
Congratulations. What is the population of the town at the beginning of the movie?
14.
What device did the Perfection inhabitants use to detect the graboids?
Seismic detector?
I'll give that to you. Seismograph. What does Val find under a hat in the middle of a field?
A face.
Well, more specifically, Fred's head.
Still a head and a face.
How much money do Val and Earl have before they take care of Nestor's trash?
$5.
20?
$3. What does Bert's license plate say?
Uzi for you.
God damn it. I fucking knew that.
Nice job, Professor. What does it say on the water tower?
Perfection.
There you go. Congratulations. And for our final question, as I stated earlier, the population of the town was 14. What was the population of the town at the end of the movie?
8.
8. 7.
Is that your final answer?
No, it was 14. Wait, you don't count the guys working on the road, do you? They're not part of the population.
No, I do not count them.
Okay, thank you. So
I count them from a different town.
Okay, so and
You
it's
can't count
it's
the
11.
grad student.
It's 11.
You can't count the grad student. 'cause she
No,
doesn't
it's
live there.
Chang and the
Oh, so
doctor
then it'd be
and his
7.
wife.
It'd be 7.
Oh no, it's Earl or the dude on the tower, and then the farmer Fred.
It
It's
is
5.
Val, Earl, Bert, Heather, Mindy, Nancy, Miguel, and Melvin. So how many do we have there?
I don't know. I wasn't fucking counting. Was I supposed to be fucking counting?
The answer is 8.
Oh, I was correct the first time.
Yes, he was correct. Congratulations, guys. You have a tie.
Oh, for fuck's sakes. Val and Earl are handymen working in Perfection, Nevada, an isolated settlement in the high desert east of the Sierra Nevada mountains. They eventually get tired of their jobs and leave for Bixby, the nearest town. As they leave, they discover the dead body of another resident, Edgar Deems, perched atop of an electrical tower, still grasping the tower's crossbeam with his rifle. Jim Wallace, the town's doctor, determines that Edgar died of dehydration, apparently having been too afraid to climb down. So this movie opens up, and it's kind of your just traditional movie, and we get to meet our characters right away, Val and Earl. What do you guys think of this whole opening bit?
I thought it was great in that we already get a feel for their relationship, for their friendship, their little partnership. I thought it was a good opening introduction to them.
Yeah.
I felt the same way. These characters are instantly likable, the way that they banter with each other, and they have their own limited, short-sighted goals. Remember, you got to learn to think ahead.
Right.
I'm already thinking about Wednesday.
Right. Just the dialogue and the banter. And I got to tell you guys, and you'll probably roll your eyes at me, but my favorite part about this movie is when they both wake up, they both have to have a cigarette. that was just delightful. And then we meet Rhonda real quick.
Well, before that, one of the things I always love, or I love about this movie, is the little things that you notice kind of happening. Like, did you notice that Earl always throws scissors when they do rock, paper, scissors?
Yeah, I noticed that.
Every single time. The other thing that I think makes me giggle every time was the scene where they're putting up the fence posts, and Kevin Bacon tries to hit the nail thing. I think it's 8 times before he finally hits it the real time.
Yeah.
And you know that was Kevin Bacon's idea, and Fred didn't know he was going to do that. So when he genuinely looks at it, that's not acting. That's his actual reaction.
Yeah. And then we are introduced to Rhonda.
Oh, so briefly.
And, during this whole bit, we're introduced to a lot of people, including the town.
I love how they also, when they introduce us to the town, they make sure to point out that there's only 14 residents.
Yeah,
in the town.
and it kind of gives us a rundown of how it is.
I don't know why. It made me start counting. Every time there was a death, I had to count down.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Maybe it's a little OCD. I don't know.
And so this movie shot in, the desert, and I couldn't help but notice during this opening bit, as we're, going from job to job and we're getting introduced to these characters, the soundtrack that's playing has this harmonica over it. And for some reason, it reminded me of summer school. Just that peppy kind of, here we go kind of moment.
You know what we need to do?
Learn how to play the harmonica?
I need you to edit the movie, take out the soundtrack, and put in the Jaws soundtrack. So that every time the little graboid is going under the ground, we hear the dun-dun, 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 dun-dun.
And then we jump back to Rhonda, and she's packing her equipment up, and then we get the monster eye view for the first time.
Mm-hmm. It's sneaking up on her.
You know what I liked about this whole film was that it's practical. There's no CGI in it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of one of the last movies that is practical, because 3 years later we get Jurassic Park. But yeah, it's all practical. And watching the behind the scenes and how they kind of came up with it, it's actually really fascinating.
Yeah. Can you tell our listeners how they did the worm moving underground, like showing up above ground?
They dug a tunnel, which obviously you have to do because you're working underground. And then they put this ball in this trench covered it with dirt
I heard it was like a boat buoy or something.
or something like that, something round, and then they would pull it through the ground, and it made the ground ripple.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you're absolutely right. It was a practical effect, not done with CGI. So you go back and you kind of appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah. And so Val and Earl are contemplating life. They have to do the garbage, and then they have to do the shit. And I think at that point, come on.
Did you instantly hate Melvin?
Of course, he was just this little punk kid who has to be in all the 90s movies, right?
Who was Melvin's parents in this movie? I tried to catch that the times I watched it.
I don't know if he had parents, but I think he was with not Edgar. Who was the
guy that got pulled down in the tire?
Yes. Yeah, I feel like he was his guardian or something like, because Melvin reacts to his death more so than anyone
That's
else
what
in
I
the
wondered.
movie. So, or who cares? And so Val and Earl have had it,
Once that pipe bursts.
and you knew it was happening, right?
Sure.
And so they decide, fuck this, we're out.
Mm-hmm.
And as they're trying to leave, I like how the mom stops them.
Oh, Nancy, she's trying to entice the boys to do the job.
She needs a kiln built.
Yes, free lunch and beer. You thought for sure
Yeah.
that they were going to cave and take it.
And they're so proud of themselves that they resisted the temptation.
They turned down
and,
beer.
And they didn't take it. Yeah. So they're leaving town and they see someone. And
It's like a power tower.
yeah, and they see someone perched up there. And then as they get closer, they figure out that it's Edgar. And they figure that he's just asleep or drunk or something.
Yeah, he's passed
Right.
out up there.
Yeah. And
And it's nice that they would stop to check on him.
well, they're nice guys, and this is established pretty early, right? Maybe too nice for their own good, apparently. And so they throw rock, paper, scissors, and Kevin Bacon has to go up and retrieve him. And this is where we find out that he was dead. And so they take him down. And I was thinking to myself, if I'm Kevin Bacon and I know that he's dead, do I carry the body down
Or do you just let him fall?
or do you just let him fall?
I don't know.
I'm guessing their characters carried him down. They're nice guys. We,
Well,
on the other hand, would have dropped him and probably made bets about it.
Oh, I would have fucking definitely dropped him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe Earl came up and they both worked him down.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
And so they take him to the dock and they find out that he dies of dehydration.
In the meantime, we have we get back to the seismic machine and we see that there's activity, and then we have the road crew working, and then this is where we get to see a little bit of action here. When one of the worms is hit by the jackhammer, and the jackhammer is pulled down and then shot out, and then next thing you know, you get this avalanche that comes down because the worms were attacking.
Well, that one guy gets dragged up and over the hill.
Right, which causes the avalanche.
Avalanche coming down. And we never see the second guy get killed, but we figure he must have.
He gets crunched in the avalanche.
Is that what he gets crunched?
Yeah.
I thought he must have just gotten chomped too.
Yeah. Later on, an unseen creature kills Shepherd Fred and his flock of sheep. Val and Earl discover his severed head and believe that a serial killer is on the loose. Two construction workers ignore Val and Earl's warning and are killed by the same creature, causing a rock slide. Val and Earl try to find help after warning the residents, but find the phone lines are dead and that the rock slide has blocked the only road out of town. Out of sight, a snake-like creature wraps itself around their truck's rear axle, but is torn apart when Val stomps on the accelerator and drives away, and is discovered when they return to town. So, yeah, we're starting to get the presence of the graboid a little bit more here. And I really dug these effects, right? When they pull the shepherd underground and just, all of the dead sheep lying around.
Yeah.
It looked good.
One of the things I appreciate about this movie, and it's the same thing I said about Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure, is how I appreciate when things are kind of shown to us to explain why things happen, and one thing works into another thing. For example, in this movie, why can't they get out of the town? Well, the whole avalanche thing, because of that caused they can't get out of town. If you notice on the side of the truck, the 2 workers were from the phone company trying to fix the phone lines. That explains why the phones weren't working. So it's not, you don't have to have those questions later on of why couldn't they do this? Why couldn't they do that? Or, when they say the phones aren't working, why is that not going on? It's because they answered them earlier on. You already know.
Right. And because the 2 workers accidentally stumbled upon the creature, and that jackhammer bit I loved. I thought that was very clever.
After the construction workers, they head back to town to call the authorities.
Right.
What do you think of how they found old Fred?
Oh, I thought that was funny. Could the graboid not finish the meal?
I thought maybe he just left the head.
to taunt him?
Yeah.
I mean,
Or maybe he just bit him off right at the neck.
Yeah.
And he didn't realize he left a little morsel behind.
Or he could have
maybe.
pulled so hard, he pulled the rest of the body off.
Possibly. I'm just happy that the wind was able to blow his hat, perfectly over his face.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a great reveal.
Yeah,
Great reveal.
That would be pretty freaky, I think.
Yeah. And so they go back. They try to warn everybody. They think a serial killer's on the loose. They don't know we were dealing with a monster yet. And so the town decides Val and Earl need to go to Bixby and get help. Mm-hmm. And so they take off and they come across the construction site and everything's all fucked up. And I like when they get out, they're looking around. We see the remnants of that construction worker who got smashed. You see the helmet and all the brains inside. I noticed that there was like traces of his hair.
Was there?
Yeah, that's great attention to detail.
I remember little bits and pieces of them all over the place.
Yeah. And so they try to get out of there, but when Val backs the truck up, apparently it feels like he got hung up, right?
Yeah.
And so they go through the bit trying to get him, and it's a nice little reveal that actually what happened was
the snake head, or the snake that comes out of the mouth of the graboid had wrapped itself around the axle.
Yeah, and they pulled that tongue thing, tentacle right off. And when they get back to town, this is when the town folk discover it, and now they start to think, we might have a bigger problem.
Now, did you catch the one that they had pulled the snake off? I think is the one that they refer to later as Stubby, and I think
Stumpy.
it's Stumpy, and it's the last one they kill.
Yeah. Val and Earl borrow horses to ride to Bixby for help. They come upon Wallace and his wife's buried station wagon near their trailer, but the couple is missing, having been killed the previous night. As they press on, an enormous burrow worm-like monster suddenly erupts out of the ground, revealing the snake-like creature to be one of the worm's many tentacled tongues. Thrown from their horses, the men flee with the monsters in pursuit. The chase ends when the eyeless creature crashes through the concrete wall of an aqueduct, dying from the impact. Rhonda Lebec, a graduate student conducting seismology tests in the area, stumbles onto the scene. She deduces from the previous readings that 3 other worms are in the area. Rhonda, Val, and Earl become trapped overnight atop a cluster of boulders near one of the worms, and surmise that the creatures hunt their prey by detecting seismic vibrations. The trio then finds some discarded poles and use them to pole vault to nearby boulders, eventually reaching Rhonda's truck and escaping.
Let's go back to the doctor and the wife out there at their construction site. How peaceful and happy and nice it is. Nice evening.
I was really digging this scene, and I love the bit where she's like, we can't leave everything out now. We got to go in the morning. And so they have more work to do, and you can just see how tired they are. And then all of a sudden, shit goes wrong.
Well, I love the fact that the generator's missing, so he's got to go look, and you can see that the cord is going underground, so something obviously pulled it down. Or
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of oops moments in this bit, because as soon as he pulls it out and it starts rumbling, she's begging him, move. And if he moves 3 seconds earlier, he doesn't get trapped down there. And so her husband gets sucked away, and then she runs into the car.
And feels safe for a sec.
Just for a second. This reminded me of Superman. Anybody?
Yes, I thought the same thing.
When Lois Lane gets buried. My question was, if you see the tentacles and everything coming to you from the back, why are you not going out the front and going into the camper?
I assume because she thought she was safe in the car. It was kind of like a Cujo moment with the dog outside the car, bashing in the car. You don't want to leave the car because it's outside the car.
The worm doesn't take the station wagon from the back quickly.
Well, the moment
It takes some fucking time.
yeah, the moment it starts getting pulled down, I would have been out of that car.
That's what I'm saying. But horror movie, horror comedy, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So these are our next two casualties.
We're back at with Chang, and he's doing his little photo op, with the snake.
I love how he paid them $15 for the snake head thing. But then did he ever say what he was charging for the pictures?
$3.
$3.
$3 a pop. And
Yeah.
and he was taking pictures and using Melvin, and he was just trying to make money.
Yeah.
Right? I thought it was funny.
I love just that actor being in this movie. I've been a big fan of his since Big Trouble in Little China.
Well, what's his name if you're such a big fan?
Well, it's Chang in the movie.
It's Victor Wong.
Oh.
So there you go.
At this time, we're also given the phones are out, the road is out, we're on our own.
And they I think they want to get to the next town, but it's a long walk, so
Chang has horses.
they come up with the horse idea. And I like how all the townsfolk are sitting there and trying to come up with plans, and they're all like, all right, this is a great plan. Who are the best riders? And then the camera slowly pans over, and we see
To the
Val and
guys,
Earl.
and they slowly turn around.
Yeah.
I have to say, and I don't know if it's just a bad side of me, but I think seeing the horse die upset me more than any of the other deaths in this movie.
I didn't think they were going to go that far with it, but it was pretty. It's not quite Never Ending Story level,
Oh, no.
but it's pretty rough watching that horse get taken.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But you got to figure, animals are smart, right? So the horses knew right away that there was trouble. Why are they not leaving? Why are they not just trying to go the way the horses want to go? The horse's natural reaction is to run, right? So,
Well,
I don't know.
Their first comments were Chang gave them bad horses.
well, and that could be reasonable at the time.
Now, this coming up here is the first time we get to see the full worm. What did you think of the look of the worm?
At first glance, you kind of go, oh, okay. And then, as time goes on, it starts to look more hokey. But I appreciate what they went through to bring it to life.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate that it's a big puppet and they did their best. And there are times where it looks gross and really convincing. And there are other times that it doesn't.
I thought it was a good reveal. I thought the worm looked fine. And, it was nice that, we waited a little bit before we actually got to see the worm in all of its glory. And then immediately after this, we get to see the underground movement of the worm, going from left frame to right frame.
I thought that was really well done too.
One of the original plans for the design of the worm was to have an outer shell that retracts when it comes above ground to show like a smaller worm inside.
Why don't you just say foreskin?
But that's what they thought. The crew thought it looked really phallic and like foreskin, so that idea got scrapped.
Do you know what producer brought that to everyone's attention?
No.
Gail Ann Hurd. Do you know who Gail Ann Hurd is?
Mm-mm.
Spielberg?
Cameron.
Oh,
Terminator, Aliens, T2. This is kind of where she cut her teeth. But she was like, guys, you can't do this. This looks like one big giant dick. And in that documentary I was watching, the designers were genuinely surprised. Like, oh, we never thought about that. How can you not think about that?
Yeah, so that's why they then came up with the tentacle tongue.
Yeah.
can we go back just a moment? They stop off at the doctor's place, and I really thought it was a very fun reveal of, they hear the music and then they get close to the music, and then when they find the Ford logo and then you see the headlights and you're like, man, what the fuck is going on?
I really like the headlight reveal.
Yeah.
I think that looks really good. And I like where he goes, oh, the car's gone, so we just missed him. But they hear the music, and so, it was only a matter of time before they found it. Yeah, that's a great reveal.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked the irrigation canal where you have the worm being killed by, it just like T-boned right into the concrete wall.
And this is a good example of, you don't have to show us too much, right? The horses kick them off. They have to run for it. And we still don't know what's going on. I mean, we as the audience know it's a worm, but we don't know at what size yet.
Yep.
Typically. And so they start taking off and they run and they make the jump and it hits that fucking concrete wall. And I thought that was a good way to get rid of one of them, and they kind of just got lucky, really. Yep. But what'd you guys think of when it broke through and then all what it looked like when it was all fucked up?
I was wondering why was like its blood really just orangey color? It was a kind of gimmicky, kind of gunky color. But then I thought from other movies that we reviewed that we've talked about, this movie was really trying hard not to get a rated R rating. And I've learned from other movies that having a lot of red blood in a movie is a quick way to get a rated R. So I wonder if that's why they made the blood orange.
Yes and no. It originally got a rated R rating, but do you know what for?
For its language.
Yeah.
Too many F-bombs.
Too many F-bombs, which in my book, you can't have too many F-bombs, but whatever.
Well, it's the reason we got Mother Humper.
Right. And they had to either go back and redub or just cut the line altogether. But we do get one big fuck you, and it's right here.
Yeah.
And it's well played.
Absolutely. So they beat the fucking beast, right?
Well, this scene too, and maybe it was different for you, but I always bring up foreshadowing in these movies. And in the very beginning of the movie, when we see that big cliff, when we see, we're getting introduced to Earl and Val, and they have that big cliff sequence, and then we see the scene where it hits the wall, and it kind of just breaks through the wall. The first thing it made me think of the first time I saw it was, it's blind and it's going to go over that cliff because it can't see. Somehow they're going to lead it to that cliff.
Really? Well, I missed the cliff in the beginning, so.
It was also fun the way that we got to reveal when Val, he dug up and we could see the size of the worm. That was a really good reveal as well.
And then Rhonda shows up and they kind of go through this whole, what the fuck is this together?
Right.
And I like the attention to detail that when they dug up the worm, it had the little pushers.
I love how
they explain how it goes through the sand so fast.
I like how Val exclaims that he found the butt end of it. And I also appreciated that, was it Val or Earl that said that Chang was going to have to pay a lot more for this one?
Oh, yeah. And I like how they're all, we need to get a winch and a truck. No, a winch will pull it apart. We need to get a lift and some pulling straps. And Rhonda, in the meantime, is going, wait a minute, something's not right. And she looks at her data and she realizes there are 3 more of these fuckers out here.
Mm-hmm.
3 more.
They head back to her truck. They don't quite make it to the truck.
They have to sit on this boulder.
Yeah, they run into the boulder.
And I don't know if I'm just being nitpicky. Maybe. Probably. But why does it take them so long to discover the poles? It's not until the next morning that they discover the poles on the rock that they've been sleeping on all night and that the poles are there for them to pole vault. Somebody tell me why. Go.
I feel like Earl and Val may not be the sharpest tools in the shed. So they don't come up with ideas real quick because you notice they're ready to give up several times. And it's other people who kind of point out things to them. So it wasn't until Rhonda looked over the rock and saw the poles and came up with the idea. They're probably all freaked out and not thinking about it.
Wow, you did a really good job of justifying that. Doesn't work,
okay.
but I like your I like your attempt.
My mind would not have gone to pole vaulting. Plus, they may not have known about Rhonda's truck where her truck was parked.
Yeah, they did because they had talked about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it showed us the truck in the distance.
Yeah.
Oh.
All I'm saying is the poles were right there. It took them all night. I feel like, it's kind of dumb.
My thought actually was, especially the last time I watched it, is wasn't it convenient the poles were there?
Oh, that's a whole other topic because not only was it convenient, but all the poles were the perfect size.
Yeah.
So I thought that the reason why we have it the next morning is because this is where the tone of the movie changes. The music gets more upbeat, and I feel like it's, hey, it's a new day, and, things are going to be okay.
And throughout this whole bit, Earl is trying to nudge Val in the way toward Rhonda. And so you can kind of start to tell that there might be a little budding romance between these two.
Maybe.
Yeah.
This is also a good scene for us, or a good situation for us to start seeing or learning a little bit more about these, what they later call graboids, these worms, that they're smart, that they are patient, and that they can start to figure out ways to get to them. So it's, I think that what the whole purpose of that scene was, is to give us that whole idea.
And so they miraculously use the pole vaults, make it back to her truck.
I appreciated that Rhonda immediately grabs a pole vault and she pole vaults over. Earl goes and grabs it, and the first time he does it, he falls backwards.
He falls backwards, yeah. I also like the bit where Rhonda jumps into the window and starts driving the truck with her hands.
Right.
And as it's going, she's like, a little help? And those two are just arguing in the back.
Mhm.
I thought that was kind of funny. After the three return to town, the worms attack and kill general store owner Walter Chang, forcing everyone to hide on the town's various rooftops. Meanwhile, survivalist couple Bert and Heather Gummer manage to kill one of the creatures after unwittingly luring it to its basement armory. In town, the two remaining worms attack the building foundations, knocking over a trailer belonging to Nestor before dragging him under and devouring him. Realizing they cannot stay in town any longer, Earl, Rhonda, and Miguel distract the monsters while Val commandeers a track loader and chains a semi-trailer to the rear. The survivors use it to try to escape to a nearby mountain range. En route, both worms create a sinkhole trap that disables the track loader, and the survivors flee to some nearby boulders for safety. Earl then has an idea to lure in the worms and trick them into swallowing Bert's homemade pipe bombs. The strategy successfully kills one worm, but the last one spits a bomb back toward the survivors, forcing them to disperse as the explosion destroys all but one of the remaining bombs. Val lures the final worm into chasing him to the edge of the cliff and then explodes the remaining bomb behind it, frightening the worm into charging through the cliff face, where it plummets to its death on rocks below. The group returns to town, where they call the authorities to begin an investigation, while Earl encourages Val to pursue a romantic relationship with Rhonda. Roll credits. So this is kind of where it really picks up. Val, Earl, and Rhonda manage to make it back to town, and this is where they start deducing that they can't see, right? Vibrations is how they're tracking it. And they all think that they're safe, but they're not, because these worms start tearing through the fucking general store.
Well, Val figures out from the map. I didn't remember exactly how he kind of put it all together, but the direction that the worms were heading was towards town.
Right. And they were on the way.
Mm-hmm.
This valley is one long smorgasbord. In the meantime, we do also get a little blurb where one of them says, well, somebody's bound to come and check on us. Flashback to the road crew scene, and we see that there is a second truck there with more debris on the ground.
Because they dead too.
They did too.
I don't think I caught that there was a second truck. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you guys pointed out, because I wondered why they flashed back to them.
Yeah.
So good point.
Yeah.
So a worm shows up in town. Now remember, no noise, no vibration. And then the pogo stick.
Which you had to know was coming.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You saw that a mile away.
Yeah.
And so, Kevin Bacon, being the hero, goes and saves the little girl.
He goes all footloose on her.
Well played. And this is kind of where everything kind of splits up.
And we have a second worm show up now.
Right. And so now both worms are in town, and they know that there's people there, so they are just patiently waiting to make their move.
We do get a little bit of chaos happening because we have Rhonda outside. She gets tangled up in the barbed wire. We get to watch the plumes of dust and dirt showing their movement, and then that fun little bit that they did under the boardwalk slats, right?
Yeah. Great effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of at that moment you're running on the slats, but yet all the slats are popping up behind you. You got to think to yourself, this ain't fucking safe. You know what I mean? My first thought is get to higher ground, and get to higher ground quick. And eventually that's what they do. After they're all inside and Chang's ice machine or whatever
the cooler turns on.
And then the thing comes up through the fucking floor and eats
I think
eats Chang.
that was the second hardest death to deal with because I liked Chang.
Well, how could you not, right?
Yeah.
But the way they go, I mean, they're half in their mouth, and could you imagine?
It took me back to Jaws, like you were mentioning earlier, to how Quint died.
Yeah.
Because we're getting to see him basically inside the mouth of the monster getting pulled in. And I don't know if you noticed too, when he was being pulled in, one of his legs was off to the side of the worm, and as he's pulled in, his leg went up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so kind of crunched him in.
And I also thought about that when it ate the doctor, because half of his torso is under the sand.
Mm-hmm.
And can you imagine what's happening under the sand?
Well, did you hear him still screaming while he's being dragged under the sand?
Yeah. Yeah. Tell you what, guys, if that ever happens and we get stuck in that situation and one of you has a gun, put a fucking bullet in my head before I have to be worm food. Please and thank you.
Before you become worm poop?
Yeah. So Chang is gone. They all have to go to the roofs. And we have Nancy and the little girl on the roof of their house. We have Earl, Miguel, and Val on top of the store.
And where is Melvin?
On top of the shack.
Well, first he's inside the shack. And didn't he do the dick maneuver when Rhonda was running towards the shack? He closed the door.
Oh, maybe.
I think he closes the door on her, so she kind of goes a different direction. That's where she gets wrapped up in the barbed wire.
And this kid's always crying wolf, right? And the one time that he's not crying wolf, the worm comes. And Nestor is on top of his house, I guess, or no, his trailer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have to say that the scene that had the most tension to me in this movie was when the worm starts pulling Rhonda when she's got the barbed wire wrapped around her, and he's pulling in the barbed wire towards her.
Yeah, that was pretty intense. There's a couple intense scenes in this movie, that's for sure.
Mhm.
Agreed.
So,
And then we have Rhonda get separated from us, and she ends up over on the water tower. And that cuts to the Gummer compound. And we have Heather looking through the binoculars.
and she's like, something's going on over in town. They're all on the roof. And how does the radio work without being plugged in? You notice that Kevin Bacon crawls through the window, grabs the radio, and pulls it. Is it on batteries?
Well, I assumed it still had a long cord or something.
There was no cord to it.
Oh,
No.
You're right.
I'm guessing when it comes to a CB radio, I would think that. Don't you think that was a CB radio?
Yeah, it was. But do those run on batteries?
I could see something like that out there. That's a very remote place. I could see something like that being on batteries potentially.
All right, I'll fucking buy it. So they get to the roof and they're making contact with Bert, and Val's telling them, "Get out of there, get to your roof."
They're huge,
They're on their way, right?
and they're coming after you right now.
I liked the firefight with Bert and Heather versus the worm.
A lot of that's miniature too.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, a lot of this work was miniatures, and this is one of the bits when the worm comes crashing through the wall and it goes up and hits the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
That bit is miniature. And they did there's another shot where it shows Bert's feet and the gun empty, and they whip pan to the worm. There's a cut in between it that it's so seamless. It goes from real life Bert feet to a miniature, and you would never tell. It's one of the most perfect cuts.
Mm-hmm.
It's great.
Did you think both Bert and Heather were going to make it?
I was hoping. I thought that if any of them were going to go, it would have been Bert.
I thought when he got grabbed, he was gone.
Yeah. And so
I love the reveal that we get. So the worm crashes through the wall, and they start unloading with their weapons, and then when they go to put the gun down, and then they turn around, they reach for more, and then we have the reveal of the wall, and you're like, "Fuck yeah!"
that big old fucking elephant gun.
What they finally end with, it's like, oh my god!
Oh, you mean the first reveal of the wall itself?
Yes,
Yeah.
with
Yes.
the rifles.
Yeah.
Of course, they've got 50 guns.
Of course they do, and they're all nice and they're perfect, and it's so good. And so they're able to defeat one, but they got to get out of town still. And they think that Bert and Heather think that their truck will make it, but of course the graboids go and eat the truck.
Mm-hmm.
And so now there are no vehicles whatsoever. And the graboids keep messing with the foundations in the town.
Right.
And
Stumpy's analyzing these buildings,
right. And
looking for a weakness.
did you know that the roof of Chang's was built so it could collapse, be reset, and collapse again?
I know it looked really cool with the kind of the wave effect when it was collapsing.
Yeah, they built that whole town. That none of that existed. They built the whole town.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that's always really cool. Nowadays, you just put it in the fucking computer and, hope for the best.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have to get out of town. And the best way that they can come up with is by using the cat, which is this big tractor. And they're going to haul a trailer behind it.
Yeah, I felt it was like one of those semi-truck trailers that they would have or haul gravel or something in.
Yeah, yeah. And so they have this idea, we'll distract
We're
the
going to send
worms.
a decoy out.
Yeah. Which I thought was a great idea because it worked.
It worked at first, yeah, until the thing tipped over.
Which, come on, you knew it was going to happen,
Mhm.
And so Val manages to make it to the cat.
Well,
Well, first he has to pause.
right, because on his way he realizes he's not going to make it, and so now he's pinned down by two worms. That was a fun little moment with him standing there, not moving at all, lifting his foot a couple of times.
How does the worm not feel that?
I thought about it. I thought that's maybe why it was swinging more aggressively, because it knew something must be right there.
Maybe because every time he lifted his foot and put it down, that made a vibration.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to be so hyper keen. Nah, well, what are you going to do?
But I did
What are
think
you
it
gonna
was clever that they worked in the idea of pouring water on the ground, because that would make a large
Oh
sound
yeah,
underground.
they needed they needed a distraction.
Mhm.
That was for sure, right? So it works, and they distract the worms, and Val makes it to the tractor, and
He gets it moving.
he goes around and starts picking everybody up.
Mhm.
But in the meantime, this is where Nestor falls off the trailer, and they tell him to get to higher ground, and he gets on a tire.
He sits on a tire.
You knew what was coming.
Yeah, you know it's coming. So Nestor's dead.
We cut to Bert and Heather, and they're busy little bees.
Making bombs.
I love that. They put so much PVC on their venting on their roof that they could chop it down and make individual pipe bombs. How's that for thinking and planning ahead, right? So, they come around, they pick up Bert and Heather, and now they're going to try and make it to the mountains.
Well, I love how Melvin immediately asked Bert for a gun.
And he was
Bert-
like, I'm giving you shit.
He was, I wouldn't give you a gun if it was World War III.
That's right. And this is also where we find out that the worms are fucking smart,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they build a trap.
Yeah, what are they doing? As long as they're doing it over there.
Right. And it didn't occur to anybody that it could have been a trap.
Well, my first thought was, you see the worms doing something over there. Well, I wouldn't drive in the direction that they are doing that thing over there.
Take a fucking left.
Yeah, I would have taken the long way around to avoid wherever they were.
Yeah. You gotta, you would think that would be in the back of your mind,
Mhm.
but
Well, I think that they had a false sense of security being in the bulldozer.
yeah, I mean, that was was it 30 tons? Something like that?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we saw at one point the graboid, the tentacle mouse, they tried to bite onto that thing and they had no shot at it.
Right.
So, yeah, that was a pretty clever trap that they do. And then we have Bert. He scares him off with one of his pipe bombs. What the hell is in those things, Bert? You household chemicals in the proper proportions.
And I loved it. Right.
And Bert's response to, if he gets taken by one of those things, or no, to avoid starvation, and if he gets taken by one of those things, give him one of the bombs because he's going to blow it up from the inside. I don't know why that made me think of you, Don. That's how you would go out.
No, thanks, buddy. But yeah, they set the trap, they demobilize the tractor and everything, and they all got to make a run for it. And Melvin's like, "Fuck this, I ain't going." And Bert,
Gives him a gun.
and did you guys think it would be empty?
Oh, I had a feeling it was.
I had a hunch.
And so they start running, and he starts clicking it because he just wanted to fire it, right? And he's like, "You son of a bitch," whatever. And they make it to the mountain, or they make it to the boulder.
I like Bert's reaction. It got you running.
That's right. They are on this mountain, and they start to, start to go at each other a little bit. Tensions are really high.
Bert thinks that if he had stayed in his home, he could have just, fought them there and killed them there.
He might have been right if he had just stayed on the roof.
I think Stumpy would have figured it out.
I think you're giving Stumpy way too much credit.
And probably come up from underneath them instead of.
I would have been counting on him coming up from underneath, and I would have set all the bombs.
Yeah, they hadn't made them yet.
If they could have.
Yeah, I don't know. Either way, they may or may not have survived. The fact that there was only 2 left, I think the chances were probably good for them at their home.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And so on this rock, you're right. Time goes on.
Tension's high.
And Bert's like, if it comes down to me or whatever, I'm going to strap one of these and go out there and let him meet me. And Earl's like, that's a great idea. And, not the whole you dying part, but let's go fishing. And I like this bit. I thought this was pretty clever.
Absolutely.
And they go fishing. They take a rope and they throw the bomb out there, and the one graboid gets it and boom, blows up.
And we get the raining of the guts.
Which I always thought is fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
I always felt that, this is a good point for a gag moment of, Melvin got hit by, I think, a couple of little pieces. They should have just coated Melvin. That should have been like the redemption of Melvin.
So they get rid of one. Now there's only one left.
This is this scene coming up that kind of gives me the ho-hum, great, they did it that way, which is they go fishing for the other one, and he spits the bomb up, and where does it land?
Oh, on all the other bombs.
Of course. How did that worm have such great aim?
He didn't. It was just lucky.
Yeah.
That's all that is.
That's one of those moments in a movie that you just go, okay, yeah.
Wait, it took you that long to get there?
The rest of the movie I thought was done pretty well. I mean, yeah, it's a giant worm that's chasing them, but giant tequila worm kind of thing.
All right. I'm just making sure, bud.
Okay.
Just making sure.
Yeah, that's the part I started not believing.
I started not believing. And so they have one bomb left.
And we have Val, Earl, and Rhonda not on the rock. What are you guys doing out there?
Let's just fucking end it. And so Val has an idea, and him and Earl start running, and they're trying to light the bomb. But naturally,
Rhonda has the lighter.
So Rhonda has to chase after him.
But this is the thing I had a question about. Earl and Val have a kind of a head start, and I thought the worm was behind them. I thought we kind of see the worm moving behind them, and we know that these worms move very fast underground. How did Rhonda run past the worm to get up the lighter up to them?
She's
they had a
faster.
pretty good head start.
Because she's faster. Rhonda was a high school athlete, and
Well,
she
obviously a
did
track
very
star.
well in track.
Pole
She
vaulting.
won state a couple of times in track and pole vault. So
Oh.
that's why she was able to do this. I don't know why you're questioning it. You just got to believe it.
Okay.
And so they come up with this. Val comes up with this idea. He knows how he's going to beat it. He throws the bomb, and apparently he misses.
Well, I thought that he threw the bomb to get the worm frenzied, to have the worm go even faster.
That's what he did.
I thought he was throwing it to try and time it where it landed in front of him as he was getting there at the exact same time to blow it up. That's why when he threw it, he goes, "Oh, I overshot it, or I missed it, or something like that."
Well, that was Earl.
Earl said you overshot it.
Yeah, and that's what I'm sure Earl and myself thought he was doing.
Yeah.
But no, I guess he was trying to scare it from behind, right?
Yeah.
And it works. And the fucking thing flies out of the fucking cliff.
And I know this was hokey with the practical effects, but I actually thought they did a great job with it smashing to the ground and guts going everywhere.
Oh, I love the impact.
Yeah.
Because it just impacts and just immediately bursts.
The sound effects that they use for these worms were used in other movies, including Starship Troopers.
Ah, well, it would have been used in Tremors first.
I like that little line that we get from Val. Well, it just suddenly hit me. Stampede.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of a callback from the beginning when he wakes up
Foreshadowing.
Earl. No, it's a callback. So they defeat the final graboid, and, they're trying to make the town right again. And
The guys are leaving town.
so Val has to make his move.
Did you hear about the test audiences and their reaction to when they first saw the movie?
Yeah, they changed the fucking ending.
Yeah.
The ending is Val and Earl leave town. But before they leave town, when Val is saying goodbye to Rhonda, the entire crowd starts saying, kiss her, kiss her, kiss her, or something like that. And it didn't happen. And so the crowd got pissed. So the crowd got to change the ending of the movie.
Yeah, the studio went back and refilmed it.
Fuck that. That's all I got to say.
I did find, and I don't know why, I mean, maybe it's just that I'm not a romantic at heart, but the fact that they kiss and then the credits happen, I felt like there was something missing from the ending. There needed to be something more, something with just Val and Earl. I think I would have liked to see them drive off into the sunset.
Oh, I would have too, because it would have finished how it started.
Or at least the three of them drive off or something.
I don't know about the three of them, but there's so many movies where the two protagonists kiss and the credits start rolling. So that was just your typical ending.
Or we could have had Val and Earl kiss.
I'm fine with that too.
It would have been ahead of its time.
In 1990? Maybe. And that's Tremors.
So my question for you guys is, how would you react? How would you feel if you had to face one of these graboids and it was right there in front of you?
Man, I think something like that would be pretty fucking scary. I think the only thing that would bug me more would be to face that giant spider in Lord of the Rings.
Oh, fuck. Why do you encourage him? And now it's time for John's precious moment.
Normally, this is where I would talk your ear off regarding the comparison of Tremors to the greatest movie series ever made, Lord of the Rings. But I'm not going to do that this week. This week, I'm going to compare Tremors to another above-average movie, Jaws. So this week, you get John's Shark Bites. Let's start off by looking at the three main protagonists. First, Chief Martin Brody. He's the police chief determined to protect his community. He acts as the voice of reason and responsibility. In my opinion, the best comparison for Tremors to Jaws for this character, for Brody, would be Earl Bassett. While both Earl and Val dream of moving on to bigger and better things, when times get tough, he sticks around to protect the community he cares about. He often also comes out as a voice of reason, trying to talk Val out of some of his crazy actions. Second is Matt Hooper. In Jaws, he's a marine biologist. He brings scientific knowledge and expertise. He's best represented in Tremors by Rhonda LeBeck, the geologist. Like Hooper, her knowledge helps the community greatly understand what they are dealing with and how to defeat it. And lastly, there's Quint. He's a seasoned shark hunter and represents the old school rugged individualism. The best example of Quint in Tremors would be Burt Gummer, the survivalist, who would rather shoot first than stop and think of the science and nature. His gung-ho attitude reminds me very much of the ship's captain who might listen to suggestions, but in the end, do things his own way. All three characters and their comparisons embody the determination to face their fears and protect their community. So what would represent the orca, the boat our protagonists go out on, to challenge the threat? In my opinion, the track loader, used near the end of the movie, best represents the orca. Both vehicles were thought to be tough enough to withstand the might of their adversary. Just like the orca met its end during the final moments of the movie, so does the track loader. So what is the great white shark? Who is Bruce? In Jaws, the great white shark represents the relentless predatory nature of nature itself. It lurks below the water, striking fear into the hearts of the townspeople and disrupting their way of life. In Tremors, the shark is obviously represented by the graboids, as they epitomize the unknown and the unstoppable force that threatens the safety and survival of the community. Both creatures symbolize the primal fear of the unknown and our vulnerability in the face of nature's power. So there you have it, my comparison of Tremors to Jaws. Bring on the grades.
I didn't see that coming. Did you see that coming?
Not at all.
What do you think?
I don't know, man. That's out of left field.
And the fact that you went to left field, I'm going to have to say I'm kind of impressed. Kind of. The correlations worked. because I feel like both movies are very similar. Yeah, but I'm going to go ahead and give you an A-.
Holy shit.
Yeah, that just happened. He got an A for just mentioning Jaws. So come on.
Yeah, but what about Valentine? He's not represented.
No, and as he was going through that, I was thinking that if I was going to do it, I probably would have taken, if I was going 3 for 3 and taking Gummer out of it, even though he does make a good Quint, I would have said that Earl was Quint and Val was Brody and Rhonda was Hooper.
That's where I was kind of going.
That's how I would have broke it down. But him making Bert Quint, it does work.
Yes, it does.
So yeah, I'll give you an A-, bud.
Did not. I'm so surprised by that. As for me, okay, let's go ahead and give it a B.
And I will say nothing to keep my grade.
All right, what do you guys think? You guys ready to rate this flick?
I'm ready to rate this flick. What about you, John?
You don't have to grab my leg and pull me down.
That wasn't bad. Professor, how do we do our ratings?
We do our ratings on a scale of 1 to 5 fucks. 5 fucks is a movie that we think is cinematic gold. A 1 fuck movie is a movie where you see it one time and you're like, I'm never going to watch that again.
And what's a 0?
A 0 fuck movie is a movie where you see it, you're done with it, and you're like, oh, for shit's sake, what the hell was that? Who made me watch this? You know what? Somebody owes me 1 hour and 36 minutes of my life back.
Or in other words, we just don't give a fuck. All right, well, I guess I selected the movie, so I will go first.
You go first.
Thanks, buddy. Tremors is a really fun movie. It's a good monster movie. It does a lot of the things right. It is silly at times, but I think at 1 hour and 36 minutes, it comes in at that sweet spot. It doesn't really drag. The characters are fun. The soundtrack is good. The story is passable. The story basically is man against nature, and we've seen 1,000 of those movies, but what makes this movie a little bit more different is the characters. And I think that's what's going to make good monster movies stand out, is not only how good your monster is, because we all know that I say less is more, but it really comes down to your characters. And I thought that the characters, all of the characters in this movie had really good chemistry, and I bought that they were in the middle of nowhere, and I bought that they made dumb decisions, and I bought that they ended up where they ended up because of how it all worked out. Tremors is a lot of fun. It's a good watch. I am giving Tremors 3.75 fucks. Which one of you graboids would like to go next?
John?
I can go next. Tremors blends horror and comedy with...
Whoa.
Oh, you're right.
John,
Oh, yeah.
Before I go, Don, would you like to get back on track and see if you can guess what my rating will be?
Yeah. Let's... Tremors. You didn't speak highly about it like you were going to gush all over it, which kind of surprised me. I thought this would really be kind of down your alley. You seemed kind of, not melancholy, but kind of like in the middle. I think you liked it better than 2.5, but not as much as 3.25. So I'm going to go, you were going to give Tremors 2.75 fucks.
Final answer.
Final answer.
Okay. Tremors blends horror and comedy with creature feature element, creating an entertaining movie. I've said it before that I tend to be drawn to horror comedies, such as our last reviewed film Zombieland. And while I didn't find Tremors as funny, I did appreciate the quirkiness of the film. The script does a pretty good job with witty dialogue and timely humor. The pacing didn't feel too long at parts. But at the same time, the slow pace did give a feel of the waiting to die like the characters were experiencing in certain parts of the movie. Overall, the plot was a bit thin. The community stalked by a killer worm. This is compensated for by the inclusion of our lead actors. The chemistry between Bacon and Ward was great. I loved it. It was very entertaining. Most of the times, most of the times that they shared the screen together. The supporting cast, including gun enthusiast couple Michael Gross and Reba McEntire, the geology student Rhonda Lebeck, and each added favorably to the overall mix. The film's special effects, while made in a pre-CGI era, were remarkably effective. The graboids, designed by Amalgamated Dynamics, looked good, with the exception, as I said earlier, the goo, which I found almost comically gross. The camera to depict the graboids' underground movement was also done well, and overall, the monster's design seemed well thought out and logical. Despite the movie's shortcomings, Tremors has gained a well-deserved cult status over the years. It brought a fresh take to the monster movie genre with its blend of suspense, comedy, and well-crafted monsters. The biggest strength of Tremors is its ability not to take itself too seriously while attempting to deliver thrills and chills. The only issues, like I said, I had with this movie is just the fact that it was so far-fetched and so hard to believe. And in comparing it to other horror comedies as well as other thriller type movies out there, it just didn't rate as well. So for those reasons, I'm giving Tremors 2.75 fucks.
Bang! 2.75 fucks from the comic book guy, 3.75 fucks from yours truly, and Professor.
I think that Tremors is a very easy watch. This movie is fun, it's lighthearted, and the bond that we have between our two main characters, our two protagonists, are wonderful. I think that they are definitely a really solid buddy duo that we have given to us in a movie. They are so lighthearted and easygoing. It's always just so much fun when they are bantering back and forth, whether it's at ease or they're under extreme pressure. The young gal of Rhonda, I thought she was a likable character as well. But I got to say that I think it's Bert and Heather. They kind of sort of steal the show. I think that those two characters are fantastic. And they are they're a little on the crazy side, but a good kind of crazy that plays out perfectly in this scenario. I thought that the worms were good. I thought that they were fun to watch, and it is easy to watch because it's only an hour and a half. And because of that, I think that it is a fun, lighthearted movie that I have no trouble giving 3.75 fucks.
3.75 fucks from the Professor, which gives us an average of 3.4 fucks, which puts it in the 18th spot with Ocean's 12, Summer School, It Chapters 1 and 2. It is slightly better than The Greatest Showman, Big, and Mallrats, and slightly worse than Big Trouble in Little China, Heat, and The Peanut Butter Falcon.
That's right in the wheelhouse of those, yeah.
Kind of, a little bit. All right, that is going to wrap it up for this episode of Three Guys in a Flick. If you would like to know which movie we are going to be reviewing next, please check out our website. And speaking of which, hey, John, where can they find us?
They can always find us at www.threeguysinaflick.com, where we post all of our show notes. All of our episodes are there. You can find blog articles about or related to whatever we're currently reviewing, as well as other trivia and other fun information. And you could submit a movie you would like us to review next. You can also find us at all of social media and any place that hosts podcasts.
All right, I just want to thank Zach, Ronnie, and Jill for listening. Keep on listening.
Thanks, Zach. Thanks, Ronnie. Thanks, Jill.
And I want to send out a special thank you to Mackenzie for throwing Tremors into the helmet. I hope you think that we did it justice, and we hope that you enjoyed this show. And I also want to thank anyone who listens and has suggested a movie. If you keep listening, we'll keep recording. For Three Guys in a Flick, I'm Don.
I'm John.
And I'm Ken. Thanks for listening.
Coming to you from on top of a big-ass rock in Perfection, Nevada.
Nevada.
It's been a minute. I got to ease back into this. If you just want to be the musical guy instead of the comic book guy, we can make that happen.
Couldn't I be both?
Oh, I suppose.
I mean, just by musical, by whatever.
Hey, I might be buying a lot of things, but lingual is not one of them. All right.
Okay.
See what happens?
I was trying to do it a little different, but okay.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No. I want you to go ahead.
No, I want you to do
No, I want you to do it.
After you, sir.
No, please. I insist.
Hey, Don.
Okay, I'll go ahead and go.
Okay.
The chick brings it.
Yeah, but she's the one that discovers it. Not the town members.
I would say that's a poorly written question.
I'll agree with you on that one. I'll subtract that point.
Wait, what? Wow, it's the second time we mentioned that. Foreshadowing? I don't know.
Ooh, I just got a tingle. The geologist. I almost said gynecologist.
Right on.
All right, which one of you graboids? It's too bad we're not doing the sequels, because then I could call you Ass Blasters.
Or screechers.
Ass Blasters is so much better.
Okay.
If you keep recording, we'll keep... If you...
Okay, the first one, which I don't like as much, is quivers.
Yeah.
My second one is tremor her.
Tremor her? What about you? What about you, Professor? What porn name do you got? And that's Ken flipping us off. I came up with creamers.
How about cream her?
Cream her? Yeah, that's not bad too.
No.
I just like to say ass blasters again.
One more time.
Ass blasters.
Happiness is...
Ass blasters.
There you go. I like that. All right, fuck off. Good night.
So baby, why not tonight? This could be the start of something.